All right, so here's where it all comes down to knowing all those parts and knowing your A, B, and C and your distance. Here's where it all comes together, your equations. You are going to have two because you have two different types of ellipses. I think if I said that right, ellipses. So your first equation is for the horizontal. It's going to be the quantity x minus h squared. Remember, they're always together. That hasn't changed over a squared, and the a's is the a that I told you a minute about the distance, so that's the distance, a squared plus y minus k squared over b equals 1. That is your equation for an ellipse. Now let's talk about this for a minute. Oh, that's supposed to be b squared, sorry. Let's talk about this for a minute. First of all, what do you see that's familiar? Your h and k. Now, your h and k has been in every single one of these equations that you've gotten for the conic section. Your h and k, in this case, will represent your center. Your center will always be h and k. And remember, yes, you are going to be taking the opposite, all right? Your a squared and your b squared are going to be the distances that you find. So if we're setting up a parabola on a graph and we want to come up with our equation, which we're going to have to do in a minute, whatever you count, whatever numbers you count, the distance from the vertices or the co-vertices to the center, that count, you square it and you've got your denominators. This is always going to be equal to 1, which will be very important in a second when we take the information, the parts to come up with your equation. Or if I give you an equation that's not equal to 1, you've got to know I got to do something to set it equal to 1 or it's not an ellipse equation. So that's for horizontal. Now here's for vertical. For vertical, what you're going to find out is that these two quantities stay in the same place. So we still have x minus h squared, but instead of over a squared, it's going to be over b squared. Plus y minus k squared is going to be over a squared, still equal to 1. Now, if you're wondering, how am I going to know the difference? Because the reality is a and b are going to be numbers. Here's how you know the difference. Remember when I just said a minute ago that your a distance is always going to be bigger or longer because it's further away from the center? That's where this is going to come into place. In order to know the difference, you've got to remember that your distance A is always greater than B. Always going to be greater than B. So you're going to look for the larger denominator. The larger denominator is going to be your A. If you lead with the A, it's horizontal. If you don't lead with the A, it's vertical. Now, however you want to remember that is fine with me. It does not matter. But this is going to be the key. Your larger denominator will always be your A. Okay? One more piece here. Your center. Now, I've already told you what your center, the point. That's going to be easy. You pull that out, H and K. That's going to be your center point. But if I need to know, some information that I can't get from here about the distance, the center, and maybe I shouldn't even say center. If you wrote that down, just erase it. I'm going to put just C because I'm talking about the C, the distance C. So let's write the distance C will always be equal to the square root of a squared minus b squared. Okay, so if I have my A and my B, and remember the C is the distance from your center to your focus point. If I need to plot all the points that we labeled here in the ellipse, then I need A, B, and C. A and B will be in your equation. There is no C here. So if I need to plot my focus points, this is what I'm going to use. Speaking of focus points, if this helps, for your horizontal, your focus points will always be your value of h plus or minus c, and then your k. The c is the distance again. You're either going to count it or you're going to get it from here. And then remember, there's 2. That's why it's plus minus c, because you're going to go one side of the center and the other side. And then your vertical, it's in reverse. Your h coordinate, and then k gets the plus or minus c. So all of this you need to write down. This is information Everything here would be on the board for your mastery check. Everything here needs to be on your crib sheet for your test or your final exam. The rest of the information that I gave you, you've got to know that. You've got to know what the A is, the B is. You know, you've got to know which one is horizontal, vertical. I probably won't give you these two words, but I will give you all these equations. All right? Make sure you've got it written down, because in the next video, we're going to go to the back page.